Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're exploring an absolutely fascinating solution to one of the most universal and, honestly, most frustrating struggles in language learning. I'm talking about trying to master your English speaking skills when you are completely by yourself. Listen, we've all been there, right? You really want to get better, you want to sound more natural, but you're just sitting alone in your room with literally no one to converse with.
So ask yourself, how exactly are you supposed to practice speaking when you completely lack a partner? It feels like a massive catch-22. You absolutely need to speak to get better, but you have no one to speak with. Okay, let's dive into this because this specific pain point is exactly what we're going to solve today using some incredibly clever insights from our source material.
For years, we've been told to just study grammar books, memorize rules, and listen to native speakers. But here's the harsh truth. Staring at a textbook until your eyes cross is never going to actually improve your speaking. Passive methods just aren't enough. Why? Because to improve, you have to actively train the physical muscles in your mouth, and you have to train your brain's spontaneous processing. Simply put, you have to actually speak.
Section 1. The Imitation Solution. So, the crucial point is anyone can learn to speak English entirely alone through the technique of imitation.
Imitation completely changes the game for independent learners, but there's a really vital distinction here between basic and advanced imitation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the contrast. Basic imitation is just parroting native speakers, repeating their exact words. Sure, it might help your pronunciation, but it doesn't teach you how to think in English. Advanced imitation, on the other hand, forces your brain to process the core meaning. You listen to a conversation or a story, and then you try to deliver that exact same speech, expressing the thoughts in your own words.
To really cement this idea, let's look at a practical demonstration from the source. Imagine you're listening to a speaker telling a personal story, and they say, "When I was a child, my parents liked to pretend." As an advanced imitator practicing by yourself, you don't just blindly repeat that. You adapt it, maybe to a third-person perspective. So you would instantly say out loud, "When he was a child, his parents liked to pretend." See what's happening? You're actively changing the pronouns and adjusting the grammatical perspective on the fly.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real power of the technique. The original speaker continues their story saying that Santa Claus would bring us presents at Christmas. So when my siblings and I would wake up, there'd be a bunch of presents from supposedly Santa Claus sitting in front of the fireplace. Notice how the narrative perspective shifts. You would follow up by saying that Santa Claus would bring them presents. So when he and his siblings would wake up, there'd be a bunch of presents. You are keeping the core thought entirely intact, but your brain is doing all the heavy lifting to construct the actual sentence.
Section 2. Easy to hard progressive training. Let's move to and see how this builds. To really scale this technique up, you need a framework, and this entire framework is deeply rooted in something called progressive training. Basically, it's starting with an easy activity and deliberately increasing the difficulty to force yourself to get better. It's literally like weightlifting at the gym. You don't walk in and start with the heaviest weight on day one, right? You start light, you master the form, and you gradually add resistance, so your muscles are forced to adapt and grow stronger. Well, your language processing skills work the exact same way.
So here's your highly actionable roadmap. Step 1, start small. Imitate short phrases and sentences, pausing the audio frequently. Step 2, move on to larger portions. Wait for the speaker to complete a full thought or an entire idea before pausing, and then try to express that whole idea in your own words. Finally, step 3, tackle the entire speech. Listen to a full story and try delivering the whole thing from memory, focusing on hitting all the key points in proper adapted English.
Section 3. The Power of Implicit Learning. Now you might be wondering, why go through all this effort? Well, the benefits are incredible. By practicing this kind of active imitation, you automatically mirror proper sentence formation. You effortlessly pick up native idioms in their actual context. And you master those day-to-day conversational patterns that formal textbooks almost always miss. But honestly, the absolute biggest game changer is naturally acquiring grammar.
This natural acquisition happens through what's called implicit learning. It's a process where learning happens completely without your conscious awareness. Think about it for a second. This is exactly how babies and small children effortlessly absorb their native tongue. They aren't sitting around studying verb conjugations. No way! They listen, they imitate, they adapt, and their brains figure out the complex rules and patterns automatically, completely behind the scenes.
And this is exactly why implicit communication completely crushes conscious grammar study. When you consciously analyze rules, like staring at a textbook trying to decode the present perfect tense, you just get bogged down, you hesitate. But with advanced imitation, The light bulb finally goes on. You are 100% focused on simply understanding and expressing ideas. And because your focus is purely on the message, the grammatical structures you're using just bypass your critical filter and get absorbed invisibly. You're learning grammar the way nature actually intended.
So, are you ready to try imitating today? It might finally be time to put down the heavy grammar workbooks and stop waiting for passive listening to magically make you fluent. The source material mentions there are step-by-step tutorials out there to help you start this easy-to-hard progressive technique right now, guiding you through your very first session. It really leaves you wondering, though, doesn't it? If your brain was naturally built to learn language through imitation, why on earth have we spent so many years fighting against it?